If you've proctored state testing in the last few years, you already know that there are 3 different but very similar systems used by each of the 3 tests that we administer. In this session, we're going to review what those 3 systems are. We're going to highlight some differences and make sure that you know how to navigate between them in case you get stuck on the wrong site. First off, make sure that you bookmark the state testing portal found at staff.blueprinteducation.org/testing. This is where we'll post links to all of the most recent information, the various PAN, Pearson Access Next, test administration sites, and links to the digital versions of the test administration manuals. The 3 tests that we'll be administering are, of course, the ACT for 11th graders, the AZ Sci, also for 11th graders, and the ACT Aspire for 9th graders. Please note that if you've previously bookmarked the links to the PAN login pages, ACT Aspire's login pages have changed. Please be sure to use the most recent link found on the staff state testing portal. It wouldn't be any fun to have all 3 tests work the same way, now would it? That's why we're going to try to lay out how each of the tests work. I'll illustrate what each of these PAN sites looks like in a moment, but first, let's chat about the differences in how they work. ACT will have a separate test session for each testing room and date. That means that if you have 2 rooms at the same location on the same date, each room will have its own session. All 5 tests will be taken in the same session. Here's an example from last year's testing showing that each location and date has its own session in PAN. Also note that if students have special accommodations such as extended time, text-to-speech, or individual testing, they will have separate sessions as well. In general, for ACT, if there's a separate session, only those students in that session should be testing in that room. Aspire uses 1 session per test, but only 1 of each overall for the whole school. Here we'll use student groups or classes to group students who are testing at the same time in the same room together. So instead of whole separate session, Aspire just uses groups to separate the testers. Here we're showing that there are different groups by location and date, however only 1 school-wide session for each of the tests. Here we are in one of those sessions. Since each of the test sessions for English, math, etc. have all students in the school, we'll use the group and class filter on the left-hand sidebar to hide everyone else from your view. This is important so that you don't accidentally lock or affect students that are testing in other locations. Lastly, we have the AZ Sci. This test uses just 1 session for the school as a whole and uses testing groups to group students who are testing at the same time in the same room together, similar to Aspire. Here we're showing the testing group similar to Aspire, but different is that there's only 1 session for everything. Even though there's only 1 overall session for AZ Sci, there are 3 subtests, or units. You'll be able to control these subtests on the same page. In the same way as Aspire, you can use the testing group filter on the left-hand sidebar to hide everyone else from your view. This is important so that you don't accidentally lock or affect students testing in other locations. So that's a quick review of all 3 tests and how PAN has them organized. Remember that each one has a separate login page and a separate login account. Please be sure to log into your PAN accounts before you arrive on testing day, so that if you have any problems, you can ask your school test administrator for help when they're not busy doing other things. All right, now let's look for the student side. They log into TestNav on student Chromebooks. Some Chromebooks may automatically load the TestNav app. If they don't, from the login page, click the apps icon and select the TestNav option. There may be other secure test browsers available. Be sure to select TestNav. Many times, TestNav will load into this menu. Here are the 3 options that we use. ACT and ACT Aspire should be obvious, but for AZ Sci and Azella testing, we'll use the Arizona option. Once you select the correct version of the app, you should see a login page for that test. Each one looks a little bit different. Notice how each of them shows which test they're for, but for Arizona, it can be a little bit deceiving. Many times when we get a call that a student isn't able to log into their TestNav account, It's because they're on the wrong app. Double check that you're on the correct version based on the test you're doing that day. Do not assume that it is set up correctly, especially since testing windows overlap and computers move around to different locations and tests. Now you might be thinking, what if it's the wrong login page? How do I switch? For example, this student is supposed to be taking the Aspire test, but the computer shows the TestNav Arizona login page. Uh-oh, whatever will we do? Never fear, just click the user icon in the upper right corner of the screen, then click the Choose a Different Customer option. You'll be taken to this page, and you can just select the correct option from here. All better. See, that wasn't so bad. Okay, quick review. We've got 3 different Pearson Access Next, or PAN, login pages. Be sure to use the Staff State Testing portal to get to the right one. We've got 3 different Student TestNav logins. Use the Choose a Different Customer option to change pages if you're on the wrong one. And most importantly, just pay attention to the test that you're giving and the sites that both you and your students are on. Thanks so much for proctoring.